Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are across this great wide world of ours. I'm going to continue about the Native American reservations. And like I've previously have talked about, we talk about how they are a system that is somewhat obsolete, even though it's functioning and it does a okay job. It really doesn't empower as much as it could the Native American reservations. And also, the issue becomes even though the Bureau of Indian Affairs is part of the government, the the people that live on the reservations are beholden to the government, and it's almost like a welfare type of state, and that becomes an issue in itself because look, when we're talking here, the concern of mine is if the system happened to crash, what would happen to a lot of these tribes? Because the issue becomes they're beholden to the federal government in the same way that a lot of people that are on Social Security or on some kind of entitlements. And the point that I struggle with is that I think Social Security's one of the things that is needed to help people, but the goal is we're continuing to increase the debt, and at some point in the near future, the whole system, like anything, will eventually crash. And the first priority will be to pay the Social Security, but there'll be issues that certain parts of government funding that will cease to exist. And this is an issue or a concern of mine in essence, because really what we're not really doing is like the old cliche, kicking the can down the road. And the government is number two. There's two things about the government, federal government, that I think is a concern. First off, it's very top heavy. And if you read anything about a top heavy organization, the issue becomes at some point the system will collapse because it's too top heavy and it's not really getting the interest or the resources down to the bottom. And secondly, the system doesn't seem to be broke. In other words, these are positions, administrative positions, that necessarily that you can streamline these executive positions and have more power or more authority to people, that resources can go more to the individual leaders and the individual tribes. I mean, case in point, like I've talked about before, the Bureau of Indian Affairs, the BIA, we've got 12 departments. My question is, do we need all 12 of these departments? And is there any kind of duplication of effort? Secondly, the BIA is located in Washington, D.C., which really is located on the Atlantic coast or near Baltimore, and where 90% of the population exists, like in your cities of Baltimore, New York, Philadelphia. And is this really efficient when almost majority of your tribes exist west of the Appalachian, or not the Appalachian, but west of the Mississippi River? So my theory about it is it would be better to move the BIA or the Department BIA either in a city like Austin, Texas, El Paso, Texas, or even somewhere like in Norma, Oklahoma, for instance, where there can be more efficient um, uh, issues to be addressed. I know, for instance, right now we're in the age of Wi-Fi and internet, so there really isn't that much need for snail mail. But what happens if the Wi-Fi goes down, or we have this period of the grid goes down, or where we have to start relying again on the mail. So the point here is, again, that the system needs to be more towards the central part of the United States rather than on the East Coast. So really the efficiency of that is not really there. And the point that I try to make here is I'm not trying to lambaste or discredit the BIA, but I just think the BIA can be more efficient in what it's doing. And the big issue is if you call there and you ask a question, and you're asking about a certain tribe or something, they'll tell you, well, you got to reach out to the tribe. So really, wouldn't it be better to turn over all that power to the local tribes than turn that power over to the federal government? And the other thing that I always think about is the historical consequence of all this, and namely the fact that there's all this distrust in many of Native Americans about the federal government. So the agency or the individual agency about the BIA lacks any kind of authority to the common or to the tribal people within on their reservations, and the fact of there's this mistrust and this misinformation about trusting what the federal government is trying to do to help tribal people on a whole. And you can see this because really, like I've said this before, we've got issues with water quality on the reservations. Some of these tribes have casinos, and really with the online gambling, at some point, once the baby boomers and the Gen X die out, my concern is that the future generations like the Gen Zs are not necessarily interested in gambling itself, and we're not planning for the future on this. And having the casinos, which quite honestly are important for these reservations because it's for their social and infrastructure programs. But with the online betting, I believe and would not say the revenue, especially post-COVID, is not what it was prior to COVID. And that's a big issue. The second issue to me is the saturation factor. And the saturation, there's so many casinos out there that the saturation factor in many on these reservations is you can gamble so many places at so many times. And like I said, predominantly this is the boomers, baby boomers, and also the Gen X that seem to more interested in the casinos compared to the other future generations as well. So there's an issue there. And this is an issue that I think is not being addressed by the Bureau of Indian Affairs, or as like I said, is the BIA. So in essence, what is going on here is an issue of efficiency and not coming up with a plan that can really change the outlook for many of these Native Americans on these reservations. And though like I've said in the prior things, we've had issues of high dropout rates in high school, high drug addiction, and we have issues about missing people on reservations, which these are three issues that the federal government has not made an effort to address, and especially the Biden administration. Even though they put a person, especially a woman, in charge from the Navajo on this, a lot of these issues are still either being put aside and not really being addressed, which really needs to be addressed at this time. We've come to a point in the government that we have this opportunity right now because there's so much interest on how to save money and to be more efficient and help people. And like I said, the big issue on this is I've done a lot of reading. I got a PhD in IO psychology. And what I've studied about this is just it's the issue that I've been saying before. In the cliche, we're just kicking the can down the road and really not addressing the issues that need to be addressed on the reservation. And like many organizations, if you go to an organization, you get a call, for instance, from an organization that says, we'll donate to my nonprofit, just like a government. A lot of those costs go to administrative costs. And my theory is, why not cut the administrative cost? If we took the administrative cost and cut those in half, how much impact would the money have on the individual leaders within the tribe, and having the power by the leaders of the tribe rather than having the Bureau of Indian Affairs or these division offices dictate to where money should be handed? Because really, in my opinion, there are issues, like I just said before, water quality on some of the reservations, the issues of casinos, issues of high unemployment, a high dropout rate, and also issues on addiction issues, example as well, were not being addressed on these reservations. And they're higher than the national average. And even though we have our Bureau of Indian Affairs, and they maybe make the comment, well, they're lower than what they've been, they're still above the national averages. And so a lot of these issues are not being addressed, or they're doing what I use the word whitewashed and saying, oh, we're trying to help where we can. But in essence, we're not helping out. We're creating more issues by not even addressing the issues that we can help more people on the reservations themselves. So anyway, these are some foods for thoughts on this. Please like and subscribe to my channel. Also, I have some books available. Like I said, recently I finished Water Quality on the Reservation, and other books that I do have available online. They're self-published and they're available on Amazon.com. Anyway, please like and subscribe my channel. Feel free to leave comments below, or you can email me at bthomasmillerpsych@gmail.com. That's bthomasmiller, PSYCH, @gmail.com. Anyway, folks, look to forward to talking to you real soon, and have a nice weekend. Probably will do another video sometime on Sunday. Anyway, talk to you real soon. Bye.